I I've spent some time just sitting down here thinking about what it is that I could talk to you about today. And there are so many things, so many. Yeah, this is a platform whereby I can air my views and talk about stuff, and there's no real consequence from doing so. I don't. These conversations that I have don't change anything. People get to comment, which is great. I look forward to those. But really, who am I to be able to influence enough people to make enough changes which are going to impact anybody or anything or create a difference? I often feel, and I don't know whether you do too, but I'd like you to comment about this, whether you feel powerless and hopeless and helpless in a world which is, it seems to me, self destructing. And the major concern I think I have is why it is we just can't get on with each other. It's it's a simple it's a simple question, and the simplicity of it is in itself, it seems to me, so complicated. Why can't we just get on with each other? Why do we divide ourselves up into these blocks, into these categories, which are based on colour of skin, religious background, ethnicity, um, the country you came from, the culture, your sexual orientation, whether male or female? Why? What stops us from just seeing people as people? There's so much destruction in this world that causes me great concern. And it is beyond me as to why it is that people believe that power is the ultimate goal, that to have money is the ultimate goal, to have to be able to have conversations even like this that changes the way people think. To some people, I guess it's an ultimate goal, but nothing seems to change anything, no matter how good your intentions might be. I just the last couple of nights we've watched, over 2 nights actually, Schindler's List, and I couldn't help but feel, well, I felt horrified by what happened back in the 40s. And this man who chose, who isn't a good man by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, in many ways, he's a terrible human being. But he had enough guts and courage to be able to save over 1,000 Jewish people from being massacred. And then, and I started to think about what's happening in Gaza and Israel. And when you look at the destruction and the horror that was caused by the Nazis, and then you see what the Israeli government, I'm differentiating here between Jewish people and the Israeli government because they're two different things in a way. But what Israel is doing to Gaza is just as horrible as what the Nazis did to the Jews. Just as horrible. What Israel is now doing to, or will attempt to do, to Iran, regardless of what you think of the politics of Iran, will also demonstrate to us the horror of war. What Russia is doing to Ukraine demonstrates to us all also the horror of war. And the inability of other nations to stop it. And that's the problem. You know, in the United States, there's this battle they're having around, the right wing and the No Kings the right wing and the president's terrible event on Saturday, and then we have the rallies around the United States, and we have some people broadcasting these events in ways which I think are horrible. In the United States, there are so many people who believe that the United States is heading down the wrong path, and that they need to demonstrate their disapproval of what's happening in the US. And yet, even amongst all of that, and most of the protesters being so peaceful, there must be an effort by the media to present a completely unhelpful, I'm not saying it's totally inaccurate, but an unhelpful image as to what's happening in the US. And there was just a thing that Panahi did that I was a bit interested in, because it follows along this line that we must continue to draw horrible versions of the other side, whoever they might be. That we must demonstrate that hate is more powerful than seeking some form of negotiated resolution. That there must be an effort to denigrate other people as opposed to seek solutions. And this is sort of an example, I think.
And though the protesters claim this is about no kings, it's about due process, what they really want to do is overturn the entire system, democracy, capitalism. They want to burn it all down.
Now, that's totally untrue. And she goes on, she speaks to Ami Harowitz, who's a right-wing filmmaker. But that's my point. My point is that her lead-in here is totally untrue. So Ami goes on and he interviews a few people, young people, who talk about wanting to turn the system over. And the right wing have been claiming that, the Bannons of this world have been claiming that also. And Project 2025 was all about that. So we know that's a fact. But there's never any effort these days. There's so much polarization. There is very little effort to negotiate or to change the way the world looks. That there is so much hate, so much fear, so much resentment, and so much distance being created between one side versus another, that it seems to me we will never ever be able to find a path down the middle that says, let's just find a way to negotiate the peace that we require so that people will not be killed. And there's another example of this in Gaza, which I'll also highlight for you, which is more than 23 Gazans dead in latest round of shootings at Israel-backed aid centre in Rafah. Now, as much as I'm saying that we should not. We should find this middle ground in which to work through some of these issues. We cannot hide from the fact that there's these terrible assassinations happening around the world. And when I was watching Schindler's List, there were these random murders, just unconscionable murders. And when I saw this article, I thought of what I saw when I was watching Schindler's List the other day, that Israel's military has killed more than 23 Palestinians waiting for food in Israeli-backed distribution centre in Gaza. Witnesses say they were targeted by snipers, but Israel has previously blamed militants for provoking violence. So one side will blame the other. The point I wanted to make about this is that in Schindler's List, there is a scene where the guy's standing in his house, which sits on a hill, and just randomly shooting people. No reason, just because he could. And it reminded me of this scene. So we've got now what ostensibly IDF, which we could argue is, maybe we could, and maybe we shouldn't do this, but are now shooting randomly people that they see and that they view are subhuman. In Germany, during the late 30s to 45, and the Holocaust, that's how they saw Jewish people. And yet, here we have in Gaza the same random shooting of innocent people, just because they're viewed by others as subhuman. And it's worth pondering, because as long as we develop a view of another as being less than or not human, then the instinct will be to kill them as you would an insect, perhaps, rather than seeing them for who they really are. And it seems to me that that's where we are right now. Let me know what you think in the comment sections below. Where is the world? What can we do to change it? And how do we respond to the mess that's being created? Thanks everybody for being with me.